start with this. I'm going to do all the blue work in here first. We're going to work up in through the head, and then I'll show you how we're going to shade these two colors together. Again, this blue is going to go in kind of like we had the black shade. I'm going to start right over the black shading. Bring it out real solid until we get to the end. Even on this chin piece here, I didn't draw a real heavy outline, so it's all going to kind of follow in. I'm bringing it right up to the outline. You can work this color slow if you need to. Make sure you get it in there nice and solid. You don't want to have to go back and touch any of this stuff up in here. You want to get a nice solid look. And even with this blue, there's going to be spots in here where we're going to leave some skin showing for some shade work, just to give it a little bit more dimension. And some of that open skin, you could even go back and you could put some white ink in there. And some of the open spots, remember around this nose. Just remember, always start that color over the shading that you did. That's why you wanted it to look that way. So you're going to get, that blue's not going to just be real coloring book look. It's going to have a nice shade to it. You can shade that color in just like you did the black. You got to understand on this video that there's a certain amount of blood that's going to be in the skin, so these colors aren't going to look as bright as they're going to heal. You can see how bright that blue is. This is going to be a real nice color when it's all healed up. Leaving some open skin when you're doing these pieces makes it look good too. You don't have to have everything so solid. Sometimes the open skin acts as a nice light reflection. It gives it a real nice look. Like down this nose, you're going to see we're going to kind of leave a light line in the middle where I'm just going to shade into it. I'm going to put the heaviest color in first. I'm going to shade back over it. I'm going to do the heavy stuff first here. You get an idea, see where I'm leaving that open skin, then you can go back in and just kind of feather it all out. The same thing underneath these eyes. Just start with the heavy color and then just kind of draw it out. I like to kind of leave an imaginary line of skin showing. There's not really a line there, but I don't bring that color completely to the edge. It kind of leaves more of the definition. You're going to see more of a black outline than a little skin line, and then you're going to see the color line in there. It's going to make the whole thing just look a lot nicer when it's done. We'll just keep putting this blue ink in here. Spray it a little bit, like so you can see where we're at. You can see how I left some of that open in there. It's going to give it a nice look when it's done. Work the color at your own pace. Don't overwork it, especially with blues and greens. They're a little harder color to tell that they're in the skin real good. So make sure you don't overwork them. Just about every place you shaded, you're going back and you're putting the color in now. You can see how nice that blue's just coming out. I still kind of work from the bottom up again, even when I'm doing my color work. I guess you could probably, now that you've got your outline in, it really doesn't matter. You can start kind of anywhere you want it, but just start with your darker colors first. And we talked about that in the color videos that we did. We'll give you all the reasons why you want to start that way. We get to this green in here, we're going to show you, I'll show you how you can blend these colors together. This blue that I'm using is a solid blue. You can mix a couple shades of blue in bigger pieces like this. And if you wanted, you could add some lighter blues, some darker blues. You don't have to stick with one solid color when you're doing real big work like this, because you've got enough room. You can kind of mix the colors a little different than even on the picture. It all depends on the look you're trying to get. I'm going to finish up some of this blue in here, and then I'm going to probably just switch over to another color so I can start showing you how the other colors work together and how they blend. I want to get enough of this blue in here so you can see the background when I'm working it around the mouth and the face here. And then all these whiskers on this thing I'm going to do with some other shades of greens and yellows. And just a little bit more of this blue in here around the face. And I'm going to switch over to a different color. I want you to get an idea how it's all going to kind of look when it's done. Normally I would keep working this and finish all of this blue up in here and all up and behind there. What we're going to do on the video, I'm going to go back in now, I'm going to switch to green, and I'm going to pull some of this green and yellow out. Normally you would do the dark green first, and I'm going to do that, and I'm going to shade it real light into here so I can pull that yellow right up on top of the green, and it'll give it a completely different color. Kind of like blending the ink right in the skin rather than mixing it like if you were painting on a palette. You're going to do that right on the skin itself. And when you're doing bigger pieces, it's easier to do it because you've got more room. On small pieces, you can't do a whole lot of blending of colors because they just get too muddy looking. But on something like this, you'll be able to do that. So I'm going to show you on here. I'm going to do the green. I'm going to put some of that green in. So I'm going to start with it real solid. I'm going to feather that green out. So I'm going to keep putting this dark green. I'm going to do this, but not that it's dark green, it's solid green, I should say. And kind of just pull it out into these eyelash kind of things that I'm doing on here. And then you'll see when I go back in and I put the yellow over this, what it's going to really look like. So you're going to use some colors, you're going to use almost like your black shades. And think about these darker colors as shadows. And that's just what this green is going to act as. It's going to be, even though the eyebrow is green, the darkest part of the green is going to be the shadow. And when I go hit this back over with the yellows, it's going to really make a difference on how it would look rather than just coloring this solid. wiping it so you can kind of see where I'm going. And again, on this video, this green is going to pick up a whole lot of blood and stuff, so it's going to make it look a little dark, but you can see where I'm leaving the lighter shades on the edges and stuff like that. You'll see probably good on this one here. I'm going to pull this. This one I'm going to do the opposite way. On the ones up here, I started with the dark green and brought it out. Now I'm going to go to the tips of these and reverse that and bring the green, the heavy stuff from the top. I'm going to bring the light stuff in at the bottom. So when you're working colors on big pieces, you know, you can be a little bit more creative. Like I said, you can mix this more like a palette on the skin rather than, you know, just having to pick the colors on the small pieces on the videos we did. They were pretty cut and dry. You know, we did the shading, we did the color, but all the color was left real solid. And on here, you're going to be able to mix the colors a little bit more and get some different effects out of the ink. Vaseline on here. Let me wipe that out so you can see clear. Again, I'm doing the same thing with the green here. I'm going to pull, instead of using the green next to the blue, I'm going to pull that green from the bottom out. The reason we're telling you all this different stuff to do with the color is, you know, you're not going to be doing this piece, but every piece that you do, you want to look at it at different angles and different ways that the light would hit it, and it's going to make a whole difference in the way that ink looks, where we went from real dark to the blue. Now we're going to take the dark and reverse that and go the opposite way. Take some of the dark colors at the bottom and pull them up into the light colors. And just about on any piece that you do, that's kind of the look you're going to look for. Is something that where the light angles are different, so you're not just going from solid dark all the way out to a real light piece. You know, we're gonna have some solid colors on the outside as well as on the inside of the piece of work. Now I'm going to hit the tips of these with just a little bit of green. When you're actually doing a large piece like this, you may not want to do all of this color in one day. If the skin starts not taking it well anymore, then it may be the time to quit. That's why I'm kind of moving around and I'm not doing the whole piece on this video, because I'd like to show you how it's all going to come together. So now we got the greens in and we got some blue in there. I'm going to just clean this out, and we're going to throw a little bit of yellow right over the top of that. Spray this down. You can start to see the piece. The yellow on this is going to really be the kicker. It's going to show it's really going to bring out some of this stuff. I'm going to go back and do some red right after I'm done with this. Normally I would probably do all of these, the reds and the blues first, and then go back. But for, again, the sake of the video, I want to show you how what the idea of blending this color in together is going to do. Even around the edge of these eyes, I'm gonna hit it with a little bit of yellow. Eventually, I'm gonna go back in here with some orange. I'll put the oranges in. Now, when I put this yellow in, I'm going right over that green that I already did, and it doesn't. I'm not worried about coming up to it. I'm going right over it, because if you add yellow on top of anything that's with the greens, it's gonna give it more three-dimensional look. I'm talking about blending stuff in the skin. I don't know how clearly it's going to show. I'm going to wipe this off real good so you can see it. but you can get this real nice, this will be a real bright yellow when it heals right in this area, and then it's going to kind of shade back, and then you're going to get the solid greens in it. Do the same thing here. I'm going to bring that, even where I'm coming up to the blue, the next color up, I'm gonna hit some of that blue with this yellow, and that's gonna eventually turn that a greenish shade. So now it'll fade right from one color to the next color, and you won't have any real solid line of color. Everything's gonna be kind of blended in together, and you can do that out throughout the whole piece. I'm just gonna hit this last little piece down here. Do the same thing, because this one goes from the green to the blue. So when you're doing large pieces, like I said, this is the nice part about it, that you don't have to worry about, oh, that little section has to be this color, that has to be this color. You're going to be able to blend all this stuff together, and when the piece is completed, it's going to have a real nice look to it. So you got a good idea with this, the idea with these yellows. And like I said before, I probably wouldn't be doing this yellow this soon into this piece. So when you're doing your big piece of work, stick to the plan, do the darkest colors, and get them all done, and then go back in and do the lighter colors in it. I'm going to switch up here, and I'm going to do a little bit of the orange shading on the hair on the top. And that I'm going to kind of mix, because I'm actually going to add some yellow eventually into this whole piece. I'm going to get off this yellow for a second, and I'm going to go into I'm going to do this orange hair. So you can get an idea when I get to the end how we want to pull it out. We don't want it to be just a solid line at the end of this piece. You can see I'm not using a circular motion as much when I'm doing stuff where I'm coming in between lines like this. I'm kind of just kind of a smaller up and down motion, so I can leave some space then in between, and you can see. You see where I'm running that color line down, you know. So when you're doing thinner areas, you know, you're not necessarily using that circular motion. I can do it a little bit, you know. I'm kind of pumping it up and down, just right along the edge. I can stay close to the outline, I can watch it. And I'm doing this overhand, like this, because I'm watching this black, like this black outline here. I'm watching, when I'm doing color work, I'm watching how close I'm getting to that line. Like over in these areas, I wanted to leave some open skin, so I could do that same thing here. I could, by doing it overhand, you can watch the line a little easier than if your hand's right in front of your work. So you get used to different ways to hold the machine that's going to be more beneficial to you when you're doing this kind of work. Now you see on the ends here, even though the outline's going to end here, I'm going to pull that color out just a little bit more on the edge. So when this whole piece heals up, there's not going to be a real hard line like we've got here. Somewhere in this piece it's going to get softer, and it's going to just pull that out. I'm going to do the same thing around this. When I get to that, I'm going to wipe this off so you can kind of see. Now you see how that orange just kind of, it goes beyond the outline, and I pulled it out of the piece. And I'm going to do the same thing here. Even though there's no black outline, I'm going to take the orange, I'm going to bring it in, and then I'm going to pull it out right towards the edge. So when you're doing bigger pieces, like I said, try to look to soften the edges on all of it, so you just don't end with a real hard design. It gives you, when you go back eventually, if this piece is going to be a complete back piece, the backgrounds will be able to be blended into this. It won't look like you're just adding piece after piece after piece on top of something. They'll all eventually work together and blend in real nice. I'm going to wipe this off again. Now you can kind of see how that works. So you see how it kind of just, it flows right off of the edge of the tattoo, and it's not, I'm not really following any kind of outline that I had there. So I'm going to put a little bit more of that. All this hair that's in between these flames, I'm doing the same thing. I didn't do a hard black outline on here, so I'm going to put in like little lines of this orange color. Then I can come back with the yellows, and I can go in between fact, what I'll do is I'll switch back to, I'm going to get the rest of this little bit of orange in here. And I'm going to switch back to that yellow again just to show you how to pull that out on the edge again. Just clean this up and get a little bit of that in there. If the piece is big enough and you're doing huge pieces like this, you can, and we said stay with the dark colors, go to the light colors. But if the skin getting too irritated in one spot and you want to move up here, but this was all light and you were working with darks, you could clean your gun and work up here and get all the light stuff in. As long as you're far enough away and you're not wiping any of the dark ink into the lighting, because it'll kind of muddy it up on you. You won't be able to see what you're doing. So I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to pull this. I'm going to go back to this yellow. I'm going to pull some of that through. And if you remember before, I was talking about going back and doing some black work and stuff. If you wanted on this hair, now if you wanted to pull this out, you could go back with a black shader and you could even pull this out and blend this right into another piece if you wanted to. And on the bigger pieces, it's kind of nice that you can add, when you add the next piece in next to it, if you leave everything soft like that, it'll be a nice transition to the next one, and it's not going to be that hard line I was talking about. So that's the look you're trying to get on there. Pulling that all off the edge. All this roping and everything, you could go back with a black shader. I could shade every single little link in this rope. You just pull that shading around it and then do the color work over that. So now you saw how we did all this. I'm gonna switch again, and I'm gonna go back. I'm gonna do some of the red in the mouth, just so you get an idea. I want to have enough of this tattoo done that you're gonna be able to see what it all looks like when it's put together. This red, and I'm gonna go in. I'm doing the same thing. I'm gonna go over that black, even with the red. I'm gonna put that right in over the on the black. I do that on every color. I just don't color up to where I shaded. I color over the shading. You gotta remember that. Color over the shading. And again, with this flat shader, I can get in and out in between these little teeth and all this stuff pretty easy with this. But if you're finding that you're having a hard time getting close to the line and you're not getting it, you can go to a round shader if you need to. You know, try a 7 or a 5, you know. Maybe when you come back, like even to do these teeth, you want to pull a little shading off of these teeth. You take like a 5 round and go in there with a washed out black and just give it a little bit of shade around the teeth. So even though you're doing a big piece, doesn't mean you have to use big needles for everything. A lot of these big pieces have some nice fine detail in it. And so be open to using some different stuff. I'm going to put this red in. But you can see I got a real thin line. These lips are pretty thin that go all the way around this thing. And even though this is a 7 mag shader, I can get in there just by kind of following the edge of this. I could follow that completely around this mouth and still stay in the outline. I'm gonna spray it and wipe it off so you can see where I just went. Clean towel here, I'm gonna wipe it off real good so you can see. So you can see where the edge of that lip is coming out. It's kind of fatter here and it gets thinner, and I can still get right in there with that mag shader without a problem. So don't panic when you see something real small and you think, well, I'm never gonna get in there with it. Instead of using that needle going flat this way, I'm just turning it on an angle and I'm using it straight out. But keep it moving all the time. Don't just take this shader and run it like this. You have to keep it moving. You have to keep it moving like this. Otherwise you could actually cut the skin, and you don't want to do that. So I'm keeping a circular motion in a sense, but it's kind of going up and down rather than big circles like when I'm doing bigger color pieces. And I can stay right in that line without any problem at all. And actually I'm leaving enough. I'm going to spray it again and show you. Not only are you in between that line, but there's actually a little bit of skin up close. I could see there. I left a real hairline of skin showing around that lip that'll add as a reflection in it. I'll show you. I'm going to do some of these little beads right up at the top. Those are red, and I'm going to do those, and I'll show you. You can, even with this 7 mag, you can get into the small stuff, and I can almost use the corner of the needle and just kind of each one and just shade it around. I'm going to do a few of these so you get an idea what it looks like. If I was using a round shader, I could get in here just as easy, but I don't even have to change it for that. I'm going to show you. I'm going to spray this off now and you can look. So I could get into those little small areas with this mag and still shade out and leave enough skin showing. So if I wanted to go back and put a white dot on each one of those beads, it'll act as a reflection in there. And then I'm doing this all with this mag shader rather than going to any of these little rounds or anything. I'm going to do this set too. I'll show you how it looks. And again, you can see I'm never just putting the needle in and just, I'm still giving it somewhat of a circular motion as I'm doing it. So the color goes in there nice and I'm not cutting the skin up with it. I'll wipe that off and you'll kind of see. Same thing, these flames up in here, this is all red in here. I'm going to show you on this. I'm going to go through that. I think maybe you'll see a little clearer that you can leave a little bit of open skin on that. It doesn't have to be a solid color. Again, I'm using, kind of going with the edge of it, rolling it. I'm going to go through a couple of these here. So when I wipe it off this time, you'll be able to see what I'm talking about a little clearer on this piece. You can get a pretty fine line. The more you use these mag shaders and get used to using this, you're going to find the color's going to go in faster, and the control, once you get some good control off of it, you'll be able to move everything, move through the piece like this and still leave enough open space. I could go real wide, I can go real thin, so when I get to like this fatter part of the flames here, now I can open up and I can get heavier color in there, and then just slow down and pull it forward and go right to the tips of those. I'm going to wipe that off one more time so you can see it. And again, I'm moving around this piece a lot for the sake of the video so you can get a good idea of all the different techniques that are involved in a bigger piece like this. So you can see, I can pull that all the way around, leave this big wide areas in here, all without having to change needles. And that's what you're going to want to do when you're doing a big. You don't want to be stopping every 5 minutes changing different types of needles. Even if you, sometimes it's good if you've got more than one machine, you can set up a couple shaders with a couple different ones. If you're running into a tight spot, you can stop and switch machines and do it that way. But for the most part, that's what you're going to wind up doing. So we've pretty much gone through all the color and stuff on this. I'm going to keep working on this piece. Probably at another time now. You can see it's going to start to get where the skin's getting a little bit of redness to it. And you don't really want to overwork this area. Go back in here, finish all the shading in your piece. You know, everything it'll kind of bring the whole piece together. My main thing that I wanted to really convey to you was pulling stuff out of the picture. Don't always worry about having a solid border around everything when you're doing back pieces. Again, guys that are getting large pieces aren't going to come back next week and ask you to do a little tiny piece next to it. It's going to be another big piece. You want to get all this to start to flow together. So maybe on another time we'll go into how to join two pieces together when you've already got one piece set, and how the next one will work into that piece. And I don't care what the piece is, it could be an eagle or a tiger or anything else, and we'll show you how to blend all of it into to create one solid back piece without making it look like you've just put on several different little tattoos. We want the whole piece to work together.